are the champion, the one that holds the line and finishes the mission. Everything that you want is within your grasp. You wake up in the morning ready to dominate the day, and every step taken is with purpose and integrity, because you were not put on this planet to live a mediocre existence. You are here to conquer and make the biggest impact possible, not only for yourself, but for your family and for your tribe. This world is a battlefield, and we will be victorious. This is the Norse Mentality. What's up, guys? I hope that you are having a glorious day. We're back, baby. After that was a weird fucking high five. Let's do a fist. I don't like high fives. Let's do fist bumps. There we go. Anyways,
hand hug.
We have been on hiatus for quite some time, and the reason we've been on hiatus, we haven't been doing anything with the podcast, is because I needed to get clarity on where we were going next. Back in April, we were approaching 1 million plays, and I was like, "Oh shit, this podcast has gotten a lot bigger than I ever thought that it was going to." 1 million plays within a year is pretty cool, right? But that also means that I needed to take a step back and say, okay, we need to level up the podcast. We're always talking about leveling up our life, leveling up our fitness, all of this different stuff. Well, that applies to every aspect of your life. So that's what I did with the podcast. So if you're watching the video right now, we have a new podcast room specifically just for the podcast. We upgraded all the gear. Everything is rolling now, and I am stoked because I've been having withdrawals.
Of course, man.
I love this podcast, and I love doing it, and I love everyone that has supported it over the past year, and everyone that has been sending me messages for the past 2 months being like, when the fuck are you guys going to record some new episodes? So anyways, thank you for being patient.
The drive over here, which is only like 15 minutes for me, I was definitely thinking about that. Like, mine and your conversations outside of the podcast are still very wholesome and, but they're just not as directed. We go down rabbit holes, and it's just kind of a free-for-all when we talk at your house, when we camp, when we hike, But in here, it's very directed. We get very solidified and specified on what topic we're talking about, and I enjoy the shit out of that.
Yeah, it causes me to think, and it allows me to kind of realize where I stand on things, because I don't really think about it prior, but because we start going down different rabbit holes and stuff, and then I just start talking, people don't understand. I black out during the majority of these episodes. And if we get done with an episode and I remember the whole thing, I've even told you, like, that was shit. And I know it was shit because I didn't go into like my flow state. And that's what it is. I've gotten to a point with the podcast where I can go into a flow state and something else just takes over. And then I just hope that I don't sound like a jackass by the end of it. But either way, going into that flow state is how I know that we just did a banger of an episode. But that's how it is with everything. It's the same with work. If I'm able to like sit down and do some writing or whatever for Norse, I'm in that flow state. And then when I get done, I look, I'm like, oh shit, that's pretty cool. But like I said, we took a hiatus because we needed to get clarity. And that's going to be the topic of this episode because it's relevant. This is what we just did. But I also did it with every aspect of my life. I kind of just hit the pause button on everything for 2 months to reevaluate where I needed to go moving forward. Say with my fitness goals, as a parent, here at Norse in general, like where do we want to take the company? Okay, the podcast has grown, and because the podcast has grown in a pretty short period of time, the company has as well. And we always need to be able to pivot and adapt when needed. And if you don't pause to figure out what the best step is moving forward, then you're going to get left behind, because everything in life is always changing and we don't have control over it. The only thing that we have control of is our internal environment at the end of the day. But if you're always just grinding and grinding and grinding, and you don't ever take a second to stop and breathe and be like, okay, we just accomplished all this. That's awesome. But what's next? If you don't stop, then you just continue to spin that wheel, and that wheel may be going in the wrong direction. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
So that's what we did. And I just want people to kind of understand that that's what they need to do with their daily life as well. Definitely get after it as much as possible. Hit the gym, work your ass off every single day, because there's this idea in modern culture that this work-life balance thing, right? And I've seen this meme floating around. It's like, we should just be able to sit on the beach and eat grapes and that's our life, but instead humans decided to work. No, work is called survival, and every single thing on this planet has to work in order to survive. Our modern day work is just a method of survival. But for some reason, we think that we don't need to do that anymore.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just because we've just gotten too damn comfortable. We have forgotten how the rest of the world works.
Convenience. Comfortability.
Every other animal, they literally spend their entire existence trying to find food or fighting off prey or whatever it is because that prey wants to eat them. That is how this world works. And over the past 100, 200 years, that's no longer something that we have to think about anymore. And because of that, we have this bullshit fantasy in our head that we don't really need to be doing anything. That's not reality. And that's something that I had to come to terms with because I kind of fell into that trap. It's like, well, I don't want to be working all the time and I don't want to be, always just getting after it. But then what I've realized over that 2 months that I kind of pressed the pause button, I love what I do. I get depressed when I'm not applying myself to the full extent. If I'm not meal prepping and eating how I know that I should, if I'm not working out as much as I know that I should, if my workouts are half-assed, if I'm not moving the needle with Norse like I know that I should, if I'm not showing up to be the parent that I know I should be, I get depressed because I know that I can do better. And I think a lot of people suffer from that as well, but then they have this fantasy in their head that they don't need to do more. Why would you not? That's what I want to ask you. From like a second perspective, you are here for a small period of time.
A blip.
Right. It doesn't
just
even matter.
A little spurt in the entirety of things.
That's it. You have this one opportunity. I do not want to fucking spend it doing nothing. I want to do as much shit as possible. I want to travel. I want to build this company to the highest extent. I want to help as many people as possible. I want to be as physically fit as possible. I want to raise my kid to be the best person that she can be. I want to help my friends. I want to write a book. I want to do 1 million more podcast episodes. I want to do all of this shit because the thought of not doing it makes me depressed. But I fell into that trap. A part of me did start thinking, what's the point? During that 2-month period, I've never talked to anyone about this. I didn't plan on talking about it right now. But like I said, once I get rolling, I'm fucking rolling. I just talk, right?
New podcast room.
New vibes. New Andy, new vibes. But I did catch myself doing that. And I knew that there was something wrong with it though. And I didn't want to continue recording episodes if I didn't have that clarity on why I was doing what I was doing, why the podcast needed to exist. Because I've been kind of diving into this, like, I guess I'm more spiritual now than I've ever been. And by spiritual, I'm not talking about religion or anything like that. I'm talking about getting to know myself. But as a result, I have read more new age spiritual type books. Just kind of like reading, getting different perspectives, seeing what applies to me, what I don't agree with, whatever. And that's why people should read. You don't have to agree with everything that you read in a book. You should question every single thing that you read, but you need to read because someone else's opinion can dramatically change your life. But that was the issue is I was reading these books and I caught myself being like, what's the point in waking up early? What's the point in working hard in everything that I do? And it was toxic. And I was doing that. Like I fell into that trap for a month or two. And then when I went to Iceland a few weeks ago, I kind of I had a lot of time to just do some self-reflection and be like, no, I want to make an impact. I want to do all of this stuff. I don't give a shit if I get any recognition for it. I don't care about fame. I don't care about money. I don't care about any of this stuff. I want to do this because it brings me fulfillment and it makes me happy. And then people are depressed nowadays because they lack that fulfillment. But why would they work for anything when all of society is telling you that you shouldn't?
I like that word, and it's been burning in my head for the past 5 minutes. Fulfillment. It's just been sitting right here.
Well, especially as a man. And it's not just men, it's women as well. But I can't speak for women because I'm not one. But as a man, masculine energy is purpose driven. You have a lot of really depressed males out there because they have no purpose. They have nothing to work towards. And if we are not working towards something, then that's when life becomes meaningless. Well, what's the point in life? The point in life is to experience it to the highest extent while you are here right now. And then once you're dead, I don't give a shit what happens. I don't fucking care. I've thought about this. Like I said, I've been diving into this whole spiritual world type shit. And I have came back to that every single time. I don't give a fuck.
Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Because the only thing that matters to me is right now, in this present moment. And I want to make the best of this moment as possible. But going back to the original point of this conversation, you cannot have a clear trajectory of where you need to go or where you want to go unless you kind of stop for a second and allow everything to catch up. You know, if you're grinding and grinding and grinding month after month, it's great. It feels amazing. I love running myself into the ground. Oh, because I know that I'm making, I know that I love it though, because I'm stacking victories and I feel good. I love when I have to like crawl into bed at night because I'm so tired and my head hits that pillow and I'm like, oh my God, what a long day. Good. I'm glad that it was a long day because that is so much better than be like, what did I do today? Well, I sat on the couch for 4 hours watching Netflix. I scrolled on social media for 6 hours. I went to work, but while I was at work, I just scrolled on social media. And then I came home, I ordered takeout, and then I went to bed. That's most people's lives. And I've been there as well before. Like I've done that.
Yeah. I think we all have.
But that's where depression comes from. That is where depression comes from. That is that lack of fulfillment, not feeling like you're doing anything with your life, because there is a part of all of us that knows that we are capable of so much more. And the way that you address that is by busting ass and by putting in the fucking work. But it's that balance, right? It is that balance of clarity, getting that clarity. And then once you have that clarity, you press the fucking pedal to the floor and you keep it there until you are no longer moving forward. And that's the trick. That's the part though. You have to realize, okay, we're not really moving forward. We're busy. We're busy, but we're not being productive. And that's something that people have misconceptions about. Being productive and being busy are two different things. I can get more done in 90 minutes than most people do in a week that have an impact. And the reason for that is because I sit there and I plan it out and I say, okay, is this the most important thing that I need to do right now? No. Then I'm not going to do it right now. But that, like, I had to develop that over the years. And it's not always like that. Sometimes I will get done at the end of the day and be like, why did I waste my time on that? You know, but it's having that self-awareness. Be okay, well, tomorrow we're not going to do that. We're going to do better. But it's that balance of clarity on where do I need to go moving forward? And you don't get that until you stop for a second and take a look around. Be in the present moment, because in order to work towards your goals, you're living in the future. You're working towards something that is down the road, which is great. That is why human beings are the top species, is because we can see into the future and we go, okay, this is what I want my life to look like. So I'm going to go there. But in order to do that, we have to live in the future at all times pretty much. Unless you're like meditating or something like that. But even then, half the time when I'm meditating, I'm visualizing my future, right? But that's why every once in a while you need to like stop and be present. Because then when you're present, you can really see what's going on. And you can see, okay, we're spinning our wheels. We're not moving forward. What do we need to do now? And then you can jump back on the train and you can go in a different direction. That's something that's important too. You need to be okay with switching directions. There's nothing wrong with that. People have it stuck in their head that, well, I'm going off course from the original thing. Who gives a shit? If you're like working towards something that doesn't really matter, something that maybe your parents told you that you need to do in life, but it's not something that you want to do, it's okay to be like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to do this because this over here is going to bring me more fulfillment. This is going to bring me purpose. So this is exactly what the fuck I'm going to do. This is what you did. You were a nurse, right? And that brought you purpose. That brought you fulfillment and stuff like that. But then eventually you're like, I want something different. I want something more. So you pulled the plug on the whole nursing thing. And now you're trying to figure out what the next step is for Cody. But a lot of people will never do that because they made up their mind 40 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it is. I'm going to do this one thing. You're going to do one thing for the next 80 years, 70, 60 years, whatever it is. Like Norse right now is my life. Norse has been my life for 5 years now. It will be my life for probably the next 10 or 20 years. But it's not my life forever. And I understand that. And eventually it will get to the point where it's like, I've learned different things. I have different life experiences now. I can provide value in a different way than what I've been doing for the past 20 years.
And I think a big part of that is being okay with it and accepting that, you know, that's okay.
Do you think that's part of our culture where like this get tunnel vision on the objective and don't ever go off course?
Yeah, because that keeps people busy.
It keeps people busy.
It keeps people busy. You know, it keeps them away from veering off that path and maybe learning something new about themselves, exploring new job opportunities, exploring new friendships. I think that it keeps people busy for a reason.
But there's something to that as well. Once again, it's a balancing act because you can't go off course all the time. Like if you decide you're going to do something, then you need to do that. We see that with dieting and fitness goals a lot. And I catch myself doing that as well. It's like, well, I'm not losing the weight as fast as I'd like, so maybe I'm going to bulk now. No, you decide you're going to lose weight, so this is what you're going to do, man. Or maybe, you know, if it's someone that's powerlifting, and they're like, I think I'm going to try powerlifting. I'm going to do a competition. And then this training is really hard, and they're like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. So it's realizing what it is you have those thoughts in your head. It's those thoughts that want comfort, right? And you need to be able to distinguish those thoughts from you as an individual. Is this what I want? Like me as a being? Is this what my being wants? Or is this just my mind wanting comfort? Because that's the issue too, is like once you commit to something, yes, commitment is important. You need to try to follow through with that as much as possible. But if you're doing that for months and every night you're laying in bed and you're just going, this isn't doing it for me. Why am I doing this? Now, if that happens month after month, it's a pretty good sign. It's like, okay, we need to switch gears. We need to figure something else out. But how do we do that? We stop. We become present.
Clarity is priceless. And because it allows you to just sit there and appreciate all the hard work that you've done for whatever time period you've been grinding through. You know, all that, you know, win, day by day, week by week. It allows that to catch up to you, which in turn keeps driving you in the right direction.
It's motivation.
It is.
It's 100% motivation. But I'm terrible about that. And I'm glad you brought that up because I am the worst at appreciating my efforts and what I've done. And it's because
I fucking know.
I love, like I said, I love working.
There's
and
absolutely
I'm okay with
nothing
that.
wrong with that.
And that was something that I had to come to terms with though, is because there's all these different things, all these different people around me, all this shit that I read saying that it's not good. And so I was like conflicted. I felt conflicted with myself. I was like, hey, you love doing this, but everyone around you is telling you that you shouldn't. And then I had to finally be like, no, fuck all these other people. I don't care what they're saying. I know what makes me happy. And I know what makes me happy because I've been extremely depressed for years and years at a time. And every time, what brings me out of that is purpose and fulfillment and putting my fucking head down and moving forward, stacking victories. If I don't start the morning off strong, stacking victories, waking up at a certain time, meditating, reading. I've been doing yoga in the morning now too. If I don't start stacking victories as soon as I wake up, the rest of my day is shit. And I can tell I'm irritable, I'm bitchy, I'm depressed, and all this different stuff. And it's because I'm not living up to what I know that I'm capable of doing. And the reason I know that I'm capable of doing it is because I've done it in the past. And that's what's been happening the past couple months for me is 2 years ago, man, I was on top. I realized that I was more on top of my shit 2 years ago than I have been recently. And that's not okay. I'm not okay with that because that means I'm sliding backwards. And there's a part of me that's like, you could be doing better. So do better. Now, part of that also is like having love for yourself, realizing it's like, yo, it's okay to take a break. But that's what I had to justify. That's what we're talking about though, is realizing when you need to stop, take a break, be in the present moment. Don't necessarily be grinding, working towards a goal, but getting clarity on what your next goal is. And like you said, appreciating all the work that you have put in because that fuels that fire. That's adding logs to the fire.
You did that.
Right.
That's something that you were in control of and you did. So why not appreciate yourself for it?
And what that also does is it goes, what can I do next? Whenever you realize like I accomplished all of this, everything that I put my mind to, I put into work and I accomplished it. What else is next? But you do not realize that unless you take the time to do it. And that's why it's so important. We live in the busiest time, I think. I mean, I don't know because I haven't been around forever. I've only been around for 31 years. Self-awareness didn't start till about a year ago.
Very new.
You know, it's
Very
a fairly
new
new thing. But I feel like we are busier now than we have ever been throughout history. And one of the reasons that I think that is because we go camping pretty often. And when we go camping, everything comes to a standstill. And there's a part of me that loves it. But there's also the part of me that cannot wait to get back and just keep pressing forward.
You wouldn't enjoy those moments without the hard work.
Exactly.
So, you know, taking that break, you become more appreciative of you. You become more appreciative of those that you're surrounded with that have helped you get to where you are. And I think that alone is also priceless. You know, the people that you surround yourself with and that are very close to you that, you know, not that you've intentionally neglected over that period that you've just been going balls to the wall, but you also share that victory with them too.
So I'm glad you brought that up because that's another thing. And this is kind of actually when it all started. We had a spring celebration here at the Norse compound. And it was great. There was a lot of people here. We had a good time. But what I also realized that night is that there were a lot of new faces and not a lot of old faces. And there were a lot of people that have had an impact on my life that because I stopped for a second, I realized I haven't seen these people in 2 to 3 years, right? And that messed me up for a little bit. And I think that's what kind of started this whole like existential sort of crisis, you know, that I had to like kind of take a step back and be like, this is really messing with me. Like now I'm questioning everything. And it started because these people were no longer there. But I also was like, there are people that have been here the entire time. And the people that are no longer here, it has nothing against them. That's life. And that's something that we need to realize as well. That is life. People are just going to come and go. And it's unfortunate. But once you realize that's what it is, it's a beautiful thing because then you really appreciate the time that you have with them. Me and you are like best friends, right? And then for those of you who are listening, we just did a nice little fist bump there. But me and you are good friends. I hope that our friendship lasts forever, but it may not. You may no longer be around in 10 years, right? Maybe you start a family and you fucking move off somewhere or whatever it is. Maybe I just move somewhere as well. I probably will. Same with the people here at Norse. I love my team. I have the best team. Everyone that works for Norse, like I could not think of having better people. But the fact of the reality is that they're not going to be here forever, right? So I appreciate the time that I have with them now. I appreciate all the help that they give me building this, you know. But yeah, it's stopping and being like, these people are still here. And these people that are no longer here, that's fine. We have good memories together. I hope the best for them.
Life comes, man. Life comes and goes. Like you have to be understanding of that. And you have to understand that people are going to grow at their own pace. They're going to, you know, live their life for them as well. So if that means, you know, getting married, starting a new family, moving somewhere off, you can't take that personally because that's also they're on their own journey. And the time that we get to spend with each other has to be more appreciated.
Well, you have to
because of
respect
that.
the other person.
Yeah.
And I think that's something too, because we as human beings are very selfish. That's fine. I don't have an issue with
we
selfishness.
have to be.
We have to be selfish.
We each have to be selfish, or we do not move forward.
No, like we have to be selfish. And that's another term in modern culture that is so bad. Being selfish, No, be selfish. If you're listening to this, be selfish. Put yourself first. Absolutely do that. But you also need to respect other people. Respect their time. Don't get all butthurt if they can't hang out with you. They have a life as well. We're all living our own life in our own little reality. And if it matches up at the same time, cool. And if they go away, that's okay too. But it's understanding that. But like you said, life is always moving. Life is always changing. And you need to be able to adapt to that. And you need to be okay with it. And the more that you can just go with that flow, stop resisting all these changes in your life. Okay, I lost my job. Good. What's next? Because that's what happened there. You lost your job. There's something else on the way. There's something better coming. You and your girlfriend just broke up. That sucks. But guess what? There's someone else on the way. Someone better. A better job opportunity is coming. Your gym closes down. Sometimes, like, I've seen people get really upset about that. What else am I going to do? You're going to figure something else out. You're going to switch gears.
That takes such a different level of self-awareness. And
well, it takes a matter of letting your guard down. And that's something we don't like to do. We like to stay tensed up all the time, right? We want to control everything. Well, the only thing that you can control is your internal environment. We have no control over everything else. I deal with more stress on a daily basis than anyone else that I know. But what has helped me with that throughout the years is just breathing and being like, okay, well, this happened. And then every time I look back on it, it's very hard in the moment. And I understand that as well, guys, especially during a breakup or something, or your job. You lose your job. How are you going to pay for your bills? Especially if you got kids and stuff like that. It's very hard to have that that unwavering positivity where you're like, something better is on the way. Something is good's going to happen from this. Whenever something bad happens here with the business or with my kid or whatever it is, and I'm just super stressed out because some days, man, it's one thing after another. And I'm just like, holy shit, just stop, But every time that I look back on all that bad shit that happened, something good has come from it.
You have to be in a mindset to allow that. And I don't think the majority of people are.
How do you acquire that mindset, in your opinion?
You have to do that for yourself. It's okay to be in these situations, and you have to feel these situations out. You have to sit with the emotion of whatever you're going through. You don't just want to be numb to it. That puts you in a worse spot than it does for you actually feeling what you're going through. But you have to come from a place of understanding to get through it, and confidence in yourself that you will make it through it, and that, you know what? Maybe this is good.
It's always good.
Yeah.
It's always good.
Maybe this change is what I needed.
Maybe this change is what you needed to get your fucking shit together.
And
let's tackle it from that perspective.
It is perspective.
Maybe you've been in a downward spiral and it's just one bad thing after another. And maybe those things were great for you. And maybe you just dropped the damn ball and you lost it all. It's your sign. That's why all that shit happened, is for you to wake up and say, holy shit, I've been fucking up for quite some time. I have lost everything around me. What am I going to do about it? Am I going to continue down this road? Or am I going to get my shit together? And am I going to create a new future for myself? A better one?
There's one option. And that's moving forward.
No, that is the only option.
That's it.
But like I said, I understand how hard that is, though.
Oh, it's very difficult.
Especially in the moment. But if you're listening to this, I want you to take a second, right? I want you to take a second and think about the worst things that have happened to you. And then think about what came from it. Even if it was 2 years later, 3 years later. I promise you there's something there. Something changed you. Maybe like outside circumstances, whatever. Maybe you had a better job. And now you no longer have that job. And that's where I was getting at with like, you're fucking up. Sometimes you do lose really great things, and maybe those things are not replaced. But the most important thing that happened from that is that you changed as an individual. That's how life works a lot of times. Bad shit happens so you can have that moment where you go, I need to switch gears. Life is here to help you level up. Life is here. Life wants you to move forward.
It makes you.
It makes you. And that's the thing. If you're not fucking up, it's going to start taking shit away until one day you realize, okay, I get it. I hear you. Let's stop, clear our head, get some clarity, figure out where we want to go moving forward. And then, like I said, put the goddamn pedal to the floor, keep it there for a while, and then make sure you come back to the present moment, though. And that's the hardest thing. I mean, I lived in that future mode 10 years almost. You know, I had these huge ambitions with the band. We did that, and I went straight from the band to Norse. And then this is where Norse is going. And then finally, I was forced to stop. Like I said, life made me stop for a second because I lost my shit. And the reason I lost my shit is because I never returned to the present moment to figure out what all has happened, to allow everything to catch up, the good shit, the bad shit, the whatever shit. Like, I finally allowed everything to catch up, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. You know, fuck the bricks. It hit me like a damn semi-truck. You know what I mean?
Flatten your shit.
But because of that, okay, cool. Well, I need to change some stuff. But I would have never realized that if I didn't come back to the present moment.
It helps you learn a lot about you. And when you're busy and just going and going and going, you don't take that time to stop and reflect.
I would say that is the only thing that matters in this world. Like, what is your purpose here in this life? Is to get to know yourself. All of this is just a game. This is just a game. Business, your job, your relationships, all of this stuff is just a game that we play. And it's a fun game. I love the game, right? But like I said, everything is going to come and go. The people that were here before are not going to be there in the future. Even if like they don't go off, like they're going to die eventually. Like that's just the reality of it. Like that is how life works. But the one thing that is constant from the time you were born until your death comes is you and getting to know you. And the more that you take time to purposely get to know yourself, the more that you're going to be able to play this game that we have to play even better. And you're going to be able to win. That's why I say, be selfish. Put yourself first because you have to live with yourself forever. And the more that you are in touch with who you are as an individual, what drives you, what gives you purpose and fulfillment. Once you have that figured out, there is no stopping you. And you can't listen to all these other people. You need to listen to yourself, but that's the hard part. And you can't do that until you deal with all these emotions that you were talking about. People remain distracted because of these emotions. They don't want to feel sad. They don't want to feel angry. We have it stuck in our heads that we just need to be happy all the time. That would be fucking miserable. Being happy all the time sounds miserable to me because there's something beautiful in being sad, right? Whenever I was 18, my best friend died at my house on New Year's Eve. That fucked me up.
As it would.
Any but that
decent human being.
But that emotion that I felt was a beautiful thing because that means that I love this person. This was my bro. I valued this person. Now imagine if he died and I was just like, whatever. Life goes on.
That numb is a bad place.
Right. So that's what I mean. Like, don't try to get away from these emotions. Lean into them because here's the thing too. If you lean into these emotions, these negative emotions, they go away a lot quicker. When you just let this shit out, you're feeling depressed. Well, instead of drinking every night, instead of smoking, instead of doing drugs or getting on social media or watching TV or whatever the fuck people do to distract themselves, everyone has their own methods. I have my own as well. You know, like I'm not perfect. But if you can avoid doing those distractions, and that's the thing is you have to be in touch with who you are. The primitive brain wants you to seek out comfort because it's like, well, we don't want to deal with this. And then you as an individual have to go, no, we need to deal with this. That way we can let this shit go and then we can continue moving forward. But that's not going to happen until we actually sit here and we go, fuck, I'm depressed. I have been depressed for a very long time. And instead of dealing with it, I pull out my phone.
And how long have those emotions clouded your vision? Like
they stop you from knowing who you are. And if you don't know who you are, then you have no idea where you're going to go moving forward and what's going to bring you fulfillment.
There's something that I do in those situations, and I will literally sit with myself and ask myself why I'm feeling that way.
And then you hear
why
that
am I
voice.
doing this? Why do I feel this way? Well, maybe that meant more to you than you think, and that's a beautiful thing. Or like, why am I feeling happy? Why am I feeling sad? Why am I feeling irritable today? Well, maybe you didn't get enough sleep. And just that understanding alone, it fixes it.
That's what, and I do the same thing. So I'm glad we've never talked about that. I don't think. Maybe we have. I don't know.
I don't know what the fuck we've talked about.
But either way, it's exactly it. You just have to sit there and ask yourself why. Now, it's easier for people that do meditation. I will say that. Yeah, if you practice meditation, it's a lot easier to kind of just like slow down everything else and be like, why am I feeling this way? And I swear to God, a little voice comes up and is like, hey, this is why you're feeling this way. And you're like, oh shit, okay, cool. Now, if you don't meditate, another very valuable tool is just to write. Get that shit out. Just start writing. Don't try to think about spelling stuff right or punctuation or anything like that. Take out a piece of paper and a pen and just start writing. And you will be amazed at what comes out. And then you stop. It's that flow state I was talking about, right? You just kind of black out and you look and you go, oh shit. Okay. Well, that's why I've been upset. Cool. And just having that clarity of why you've been upset allows you to let it go. But you can't let it go until you know what the fuck it is. But it all comes full circle. This whole conversation, we went off in so many different directions, but it all comes back to one thing. Stopping long enough to get clarity, getting clarity on yourself and getting clarity on where you need to go moving forward. Also, realizing how much you have grown as a person. If you're always just leveling up, which should be everyone's goal, right? Every day, do something to get better. Something small. Read 10 pages of a book, whatever it is. That compounds over time. 1% better every single day. You are a different person, even 3 months later. Well, if you don't stop to acknowledge that you are a different person, you're no longer going to be able to level up your quality of life. And they play hand in hand together. You want a better life? You work on yourself. But until you stop to be like, okay, this is where I'm at now. And I hate saying this, but this is the fact of the matter. I'm up here now, but I'm still hanging out with people down here. Well, something needs to change because unless they move up, you're going to have to move down. But sometimes it's just stopping to realize that. Or maybe you're working a job and you're like, I'm way too qualified for this shit. Fuck this. I'm out. I'm going to find a new opportunity for myself because I've been working on myself and I can do that now. But if you don't stop to get that clarity, you have no idea what's next. You just continue to spin that wheel and then one day you're dead. But you apply that to everything. Your relationships, you as an individual, your job, your workouts, your interest. Maybe you've been, mountain biking for 10 years. And you're like, I really don't fucking enjoy mountain biking anymore. We see it all the time with athletes. I have some friends now. I've been in this fitness world for 10, 15 years. I have some friends that they were really high up in powerlifting and strongman. And then finally one day they stopped and they're like, you know what? I accomplished everything that I wanted to accomplish 3 years ago. Me and Runar talked about this, which that episode's going to be dropping after this one. Everyone needs to listen to it. It's great. But that's something that Runar was talking about. Runar was a powerlifter, professional powerlifter for 10 or 15 years since he was in high school. And then finally one day he was like, I accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish years ago. Why am I still doing this? But if he didn't stop for a second to listen to himself to figure out what he wanted to do moving forward, he would still be doing something that was no longer serving him. And that's where we're going to wrap this up. Make sure that what you're doing is serving you and moving in the direction that you actually want to go.
I have one more thing.
Go for it.
I want people to change their perspective on that break. That break that you take and the clarity that you gain from it isn't a setback. It can accelerate your plans tenfold.
Well, it's just like
if you take that moment to do it.
The podcast is a perfect example of that. We could have kept moving forward with the podcast, right? But instead we stopped for 2 months. We figured out where we wanted to go with it. We made this sick room. And now everything is going to be better as a result. We're going to be able to help more people. More people are going to find this podcast because it's just a better viewing experience. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. It's not a setback. And that is, I'm glad you brought that up because that is the whole purpose of this episode. Realizing that taking time to pause and be present is not a bad thing. No matter what some stupid ass meme on Instagram tells you about grind culture and how you always need to be going, it's bullshit. Yes, work your ass off. Work your ass off on whatever brings you fulfillment and happiness in life. But then every once in a while, make sure that you stop and get clarity on what you need to do. And that is not a bad thing. You have to do that. If you're going to be leveling up and everything else, like I said, it's all compounding. It's all compounding. Well, if you don't allow it to all like come full circle, you're like, oh shit, okay, cool. You're holding yourself back. Same with business. Same with this podcast. Same with everything. That was a good point. I'm glad you brought it up.
Thank you.
Anyways, that's the end of this episode of the Norse Mentality. This podcast is a byproduct of Norse Fitness. You can find us online at norsefitness.co. You can find me on Instagram at Andrew Cliff Lewis. Cody, my man, how can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Cody_Whitley.
Awesome. And thank you once again, guys, for listening. Thank you for being patient.
1 million streams, man.
1 million.
God damn.
I want 1 million more in 6 months. There you go.
I'm just very appreciative of everyone.
I can't express my gratitude.
That has listened to this and pushed us forward. I don't think that, they understand what it does for us.
I have to do it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like I've been fiending. Like I have to do this podcast. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Norse Mentality. This podcast is a byproduct of Norse Fitness. We make clothing, fitness accessories, supplements, and other tools to help you reach your true potential. You can check it out at norsefitness.co. And if you found this episode beneficial, please share it with a friend. That way we can continue to make a bigger impact and change the world. Thank you for your support, and we'll talk to you soon.